Today, Sherry and I would like to share with you a miracle story, a real life-changing story about someone whose life was changed by the power of God. And my name is David Canther, and I've been a pastor for over 30 years, was the senior pastor at the Mount Dora Seventh-day Adventist Church Life-Changing Ministries, where a special individual by the name of Gwynne came to play the piano for our church, and we're going to tell you just a little bit about that. But Gwynne has some special spiritual gifts before we tell you the story. And Sherry, how would you describe what you have seen over the years? Been maybe 15 years of knowing Gwynne. What are some of her spiritual gifts?
Gwynne has always been a positive influence in my life. When either one of us were going through rough times, her prayers blessed immeasurably my life. And even when she would be going through times of adversity, she always had a positive attitude and found a positive outlet for the gifts that God had given to her. She has been such a blessing to many, and her music and her prayers and her love have extended to the congregations that she's been with, and she's also blessed many others through other concerts that she has given with the spiritual intensity and power of her story and the music that she plays.
So we're going to share with you this miracle story now, because I always love it when God, through the Holy Spirit, changes lives when you create the right accepting environment that a church should be. And so here, Sherry and I and our family interviewed our two children to a church that was known by reputation as being the most critical church in the Florida Conference. They only had one family, and they kind of took pride in removing the pastor about every 2.5 years. So we took a vote, and we went into the board that was interviewing us, and we asked them for a vote, I should say, and we said, we will come there if you vote unanimously to accept us to do outreach ministries in the community. And that was one of the requirements. And they said, well, what's that? And so anyway, we let them know it needed to be a unanimous vote, and they needed to vote unanimously to accept our family to come to be the pastor. Anyway, we gave them 20 minutes. We went out. 20 minutes later, they came and said our church has never voted unanimously on anything, and they just voted unanimously on your two requests. So that began the journey. And the church had one family, as I mentioned, was all retired. Church was paid for, but it had a problem. They knew they were going to die. So Sherry and I love to do outreach ministries in the community, bringing people in that are hurting. And so Sherry and I were talking about different people we knew in the Orlando area. And since the church was only about 45 minutes from Orlando and Mount Dora, and so I told Sherry, I said, well, I know of a special individual, Gwynne. Sherry was a choir director, and so we had a wonderful pianist, actually, that we were paying to play week after week, and he was well known. But, you know, sometimes you find that God has a special plan. I told my wife, I said, there's someone called Gwynne who used to play for our choir at Adelphian Academy in Michigan. And I understand she hasn't attended church in some time, and so I'd like to give her a call and see if she would be willing, if we paid her, to come play for our church in addition to the one we had. And so long and short, I talked to Gwynne. Gwynne says, David, they'll never want me to play. I smoke, different things. And she said, I haven't played in years. I said, Gwynne, I'm going to take it to the board if you want. And if they vote unanimously, I'll tell them you smoke, you got challenges, you need to accept her as she is. But basically, if you vote unanimously for her to come and to pay her, I will call Gwynne back. I went to the board. I told them exactly what I knew that Gwynne had shared with me. The board voted unanimously to ask Gwynne to come. That was the miracle. Gwynne found herself in a situation where the first Sabbath she was to come, she called me up that morning, Sabbath morning, and said, I'm not able to come. I said, well, Gwynne, your car difficulties, we have a solution. I said, there's a couple that lives right close to you. I'm going to call them up. They're going to come by and pick you up. And thank you, Gwen. We're looking forward to seeing you. Well, that didn't give her too many options, but she came. She was very nervous, and she began playing. And so the congregation accepted her. They could, smell stuff on her, whatever. But, if you invite people to the right environment where the Holy Spirit can change rather than our external demands, God can use this a lot more. And Gwen came once a month, then she came more frequently, and she began playing more and more. And Gwen, about a year after that, stood up and gave her testimony. And she said, she said, Pastor Dave doesn't even know this, but she said, I've been smoking marijuana for the past year, usually to calm my nerves just before I come into play. And she said, but through the power of God, I've stopped smoking now, and I've stopped taking marijuana. And she said, that's only because someone gave me a chance and God changed my life. The audience stood to their feet and they applauded, and we're so glad that Gwen shared her testimony that day. We'd like to share this with you because God truly can change lives. If you create that kind of an environment, let the Holy Spirit do the work of truly changing you from the inside out, because God says, I truly want to make you into a new creation. Well, Gwen played for many years actually at our church, and we've continued that relationship. So there's today's miracle story for you. God bless.